So, how mature is your organization? Stick around. We're going to talk about that tonight. But first, good evening, Agile Acquisition enthusiasts. Welcome back to the Underground Digital Tiki Bar. It's Friday night, and that means it's time for another episode of Agile Acquisitions and Alcohol. Cheers. All right. Welcome back to another episode. On tonight's episode, we're going to talk about digital service maturity. How mature is your organization? Is it ready to adopt and implement agile best practices? A lot of organizations talk about it, but only some really have put the steps in place to actually be able to be successful. When you're a contracting officer, it's essential that you understand how mature your organization is on the digital service maturity model so that you can make sure that the best practices and agile development methodologies will be successful because the people behind implementing them understand what they need to do and have the behaviors in place to do so. If you want, you can check out the Digital Service Maturity Model tool on the TechFarHub website, and I'll put the link below, and you can go there and it'll run through a series of questions and help you understand a rating associated with your agency's organizational preparedness. So for tonight's episode, we're going to walk through the 9 different categories of digital service maturity. So here's number 1, transparency and openness. How open is your organization? Are they using collaboration tools like Slack or maybe even Jabber? Some organizations use some other tools. Slack has become really widely adopted, but any methodology that allows people to communicate dynamically in something a little bit simpler and more straightforward than email perhaps. So are they communicating internally, but also are they communicating externally? How open is the dialogue between industry and the agency? That's critically important because you need to be able to fully vet vendors and understand how their approach is going to work in your organization. Number 2, organizational culture of delivery. It's important to understand if your organization is actually prepared to implement an agile delivery model. A lot of agencies will say they're agile, but they're really more like agile fall. They have the agile processes up front, but the process to actually release usable code to the end users still requires 30, 60, or 90-day configuration board assessments and security evaluations that occur at the end of delivery, which means you're not getting that lean feedback loop of user feedback. Number 3, craftsmanship. Has the agency or organization invested in the understanding of Agile? Are people there just program managers one day and then product owners the next day? Or have they actually been trained in the methods for delivering under Agile or other continuous development methodologies? Number 4, Agile development championships. It is really important that leadership is behind the Agile methodology. If a program office is kind of off in the corner trying to do something creative and innovative, but senior leadership is not engaged, understand what it means, and fully supportive, you're going to find yourself running into roadblocks with nobody to remove them. Number 5, user-centered design. Agile doesn't offer much in the way of value if you're not getting user feedback, if you're not constantly going back to the end user and finding out if what you're building for them is actually making a difference for them. A lot of times code will get written over long periods of time without ever engaging with the end user, sometimes never. And what you have is something that meets the technical requirements, but not necessarily something that's usable by the person that it was built for. Number 6, product delivery. Does the organization have a methodology for actually delivering the product? Does it have the repositories for managing and pushing the code? Does it have people who are trained, product owners that are trained in organizing complex continuous delivery methodologies? Number 7, continuous integration. Speaking of continuous integration, as I mentioned before, having that ability to do push code out to end users quickly and repeatedly over time requires an approach that is constantly scanning for security challenges, constantly addressing those configuration configuration management requirements, but doing it in micro chunks. You have to build those processes in place and create mechanisms to allow them to integrate with other traditional waterfall programs in the agency because they're still there and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Number 8, clean code. You can't continuously release code if you're not sure the code's clean, and that should be part of your definition of done. Do you have some sort of automated processing for scanning the code and making sure that the code is quality, it's going to work, and that it's safe for the agency to use and deploy to their end users? And finally, number 9, acquisition. Of course, how could we forget about acquisition? Do you have a contracting organization that understands what it means to buy the repeatable process for the delivery of functional product? Is the acquisition organization going to be okay with not having 500-page system requirement documents or very detailed statements of work calling out all of the specifics of the technical requirements? Because as we know, if you're going to be agile, you have to leave room in the contract vehicle to continuously get that user feedback and then shift the technical requirements. That's where we separate the contractual requirements from the technical requirements. And it requires an innovative and forward-leaning acquisition and organization to get behind that. So there you go, 9 characteristics of the digital service maturity model. As I mentioned, you can go to the TechFar Hub, evaluate yourself for your own programs and your own organization before you embark. There may have to be some different degrees of implementation of digital service acquisitions and digital service programs based on your organization's maturity. Okay, well, I hope you found this video informative. I hope you go to the TechFar Hub and you check out that model and assessment. And I hope you like this video. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe so you'll find out when the next episode is coming out. And until next week, cheers.